Today is Tuesday, December 18th. It is exactly 6 o'clock. This is the Board of Health in Town Hall for our regular attended meeting. Tonight we have Gary Magnuson from CMG, and in attendance, Jim Philbrook, Board of Health agent, Kathleen Walker, Matt Gagner, and myself, John Sanborn. We have a relatively full agenda tonight, but what we want to do, because Gary is here, we want to start off and have him go over some reports about the old and new landfills, as well as anything else, including well monitoring on Burlingame Road, I guess, while you're here. So if you want, Gary, you can.
Sure. Thanks. So I have, I believe, 4 primary things to talk about. The first, second, and third quarter monitoring report and the addendum to the comprehensive site assessment report for the old landfill, 54 Flint Road. I'm going to talk about that quickly.
Okay.
I have the 2 proposals for Q1 and Q2 for both landfills for fiscal year, for Q1 and Q2 for 2019. I wasn't planning on bringing those. I wasn't sure I was going to come tonight. Did talk with Jim and Andrea earlier today, and they said come, so I figured, you know what, we'll get these out of the way. They're the same. And then we can talk a little bit about Burlingame Road. So you guys don't have copies of the report, but I think, or maybe you do. I sent these out last week. So this report dated December 13th is the first quarter, second quarter, and third quarter monitoring report, plus an addendum to the comprehensive site assessment. The addendum is what DEP had asked for. If you recall, they're doing a review of the 2010 report. So I've been communicating with Greg Root and others at DEP. One of the things they asked for was some test pits along Flint Road. You guys had approved some funds to do that and to do this comprehensive site assessment update. It was $5,000 budgeted for that. It's nowhere near that. With the test pits and the testing and the report, we're well underneath. And I will get an invoice off to you guys for that scope of work. So, in summary, nothing's really changed. The conditions are the same at the landfill. We just did the fourth quarter. I don't have that data in yet, but that was just collected 2 weeks ago, a week ago. The first, second, and third quarters, everything is stable. The 1,4-dioxin concentration at the landfill at MW5D is still there, relatively consistent. MW4D has had it a couple times. The TCE detection that we had found, or had been found way back in 2008, we have not been able to reproduce that, and that's the one that triggers 59 Flint Road, where there is TCE detection, and you guys, the Board of Health, is responsible for that now because it was once detected in the landfill. We've tested since 2016 and haven't found it, but it doesn't mean you're not responsible for it.
At 59?
At 59. It was at the landfill back in 2008.
Mm-hmm.
It's been at 59, but I haven't found it again at the landfill. So, this report talks about that. The addendum to the comprehensive site assessment, DEP's did a site inspection this summer, and one of their concerns with the comprehensive site assessment done back in 2010, 2 concerns. One, delineation of the landfill debris. The last consultant that did the work did test pits on the north side of Flint Road, and there was debris. So they said, well, how do you know it's not on the south side of Flint Road? Well, there's a mountain there. But they wanted confirmation, so we did 4 test pits along there. They were all clean, or native fill, nothing. So I was able to say it ends somewhere at the road, which we all knew, but got that from. Their other concern was the conclusions in 2010 in the comprehensive site assessment said, there's really no contamination from this landfill. We don't think you need to do anything, which was a valid conclusion because they really didn't find very much. They didn't find anything above drinking water standards. They weren't checking for 1,4-dioxin at the 0.3 level we check now. They were checking at, I think it was non-detect below 5 back then. Now that we started testing it for you and we found 1,4-dioxin, and we had to start testing the homes around there, DEP looked at it and said, okay, this landfill is or likely causing an impact or a problem to the area, therefore something needs to be done. So they asked us to revisit the conclusions. We revisited the conclusions, and in here we said things we've always talked about. We didn't change anything. Our recommendations are to continue semi-annual surface water monitoring, which you are doing now. Continue drinking water monitoring in accordance with the IRA plan, so that's the 4 homes along Flint Road that we are doing. Reduce the monitoring in the wells from semi-annual to annual. You had 4 quarters of data back in 2008. We've done it semi-annual 3 times now. I don't see the need in continuing to do it semi-annual. It's nice to have that data, but there's no seasonal change at this point. They may mandate that we do it semi-annual, but we're suggesting we go to annual. The proposal I'm going to give you includes it annual. If they allow it semi-annual, you only pay for 1. And I talk about reducing some of the non-VOC parameters in some of the wells to annual. That's basically what I talked about. I said, let's cut the scope of work down. I did not, in this comprehensive site assessment addendum, which is really short, it's only about a page, I didn't tell them what should be done as far as capping or anything like that. That's the next phase. They need to approve the existing comprehensive site assessment they have. Then we have to do the alternatives analysis. So I really kept it really short and sweet. So I think they should agree with it. Greg Root started to review it last week. So I'll keep you posted. Well, you guys are going to get the letter, but I asked him to communicate with us if there's anything we needed to add to it. So that's the status there.
Thank you, by the way. That was, I did look at the email with the photos, nice
Okay.
photos, very clear to understand. And it was DPW, our
Yeah.
highway department.
Yeah, I talked to
They
Jerry.
should be recognized. That was nice of them to
They
come
were
on out
very
and help.
accommodating.
Saved us some money, I'm sure, right?
Yeah, very accommodating. Yeah, it was. They worked with us very well. On this landfill, I've been coming to you guys and saying, everything looks great. We haven't found 1,4-dioxin in 63 Flint Road, and everything looked great. We haven't found anything. So we did get a detection this quarter. It's the first of I think we've had 6 quarters where we didn't have it, and it came back. So as you know, we collect and analyze a primary sample, and if 1,4-dioxin is detected in that, we ask them to run the duplicate sample. So it was detected at 0.154, so 15.4, 0.154, and in the duplicate it wasn't detected at 0.144, so close but not there. Bottom line, it's there, and we found it in that house at 0.16, 0.164, 0.15, and then below 0.14, below 1.15, blah, blah, blah. So it's barely there. You are providing bottled water. You continue to provide bottled water. All the notices were made. That's the email that you guys got last week. I talked to Jim before the email went out. I talked to the homeowner. She's completely, I said there's no change. She's fine with everything. So that's the only.
Gary, is this the house that was tested by the USDA?
It is.
We'll be getting those results in 6 months.
6 months.
6 months?
Yeah.
They use a different lab.
I guess. Wow.
So that's what I have for 54 and the monitoring that's done. As I said, both landfills are just sampled. I don't have the data yet. So in an effort to keep moving, proposals for, we'll do 54 Flint Road since we're talking about it. So that's the one that obviously says 54 Flint Road, Q1, Q2, 2019. Everything's identical. The prices are the same. Everything's the same for the first 2 quarters. As I said, if DEP agrees, we will go from annual to semi-annual. However, I don't think we'll have full confirmation. I would plan on doing the groundwater monitoring in Q2, and then we won't do it in Q4. So that will be, so that's not in this proposal. That'll be in the next proposal to come through. So, if you, again, all I did is change the dates. This is exactly the same as you've done and we've approved.
Something we expected, so.
Yeah, you have that, and I believe that's in the budget that I gave Jim.
It is.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, Matt.
So, if I may, so Jim, these funds are already been allocated?
Yes,
We have them?
we anticipated that, and we had it allocated, so.
I'd like to make a motion that we accept CNG's proposal
Dated.
dated December 18th, 2018, for 54 Flint Road, as stated in this proposal. I'd like to accept this proposal.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. So we'll move to 90 Flint Road. Again, same situation. Everything's the same as last year. No changes.
And again, this is something we anticipated and have allocated for, so.
The cost on this is,
This one's $9,898.
there we go. So a little bit more, that would be expected.
Well, there's a lot, yeah. As you notice,
Yeah.
the lab costs are very expensive.
Right.
We're not at a point where we can talk to DEP yet on reducing monitoring on this landfill. We've detected 1,4-dioxin in 3 points out here. I'm not comfortable saying I fully understand everything that's going on here. We should cut this back. So we're just, you don't have enough data. Once you get 5 years worth of data and we can really look at those trends, maybe we can go to the state and say, all right, we can maybe eliminate this well or go semi-annual or go annual versus semi-annual. But you have an approved plan for this landfill that you must follow. This is it. So.
And where are we in the 5-year plan?
2.
2, okay. Good.
And the 5-year thing, that's something that, we kind of would bring up. If there were no issues and nothing detected and nothing whatsoever, and no homes proximal, I think you could probably try to make an argument at 2 or 3 years, but there's just too much going on here.
Right, no, I agree.
So, and that's exactly as DEP requires.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, ma'am.
I'd like to make a motion
Yep.
that we accept CMG Environmental Services proposal dated December 18th, 2018, concerning 90 Flint Road, for the amount of $9,898.
Second.
We have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. That is approved as well.
Thank you, Garrett.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Gary,
Bill.
very good.
And like I said, we haven't, most of our other contracts, we have 2 or 3% increases, price increases. I haven't done any price increases. I don't intend to. As long as I can keep my lab costs the same, we'll keep everything the same for you.
Great.
Inflation doesn't affect the town of Charlton.
Yeah, okay.
Doesn't
Appreciate that.
We've been doing it for the town for years on other projects, so that's that. Burlingame, I know you guys have sent multiple letters, and
Yes.
basically you're at a loss for responses, and I understand from communication with Andrea that all of the ones that we had initially listed have been contacted. Twice. So, I wasn't actually prepared to talk about that tonight, so what I can do is, I think I can take a little more detailed look at the map, look at proximity, and then maybe shoot you guys an email and say, I would recommend you try these, you want 2 more to get you the 3 that you guys agreed to do.
Correct.
So why don't I give you 6 in order of 1 through 6, and then start with the first 2 and then go to the next 2.
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
I think, and I'm just talking out loud, just for
As opposed
discussion.
to whispering.
Yeah, no, I think,
Sorry.
out of the requests that we had extended to, we had response from 1.
That's correct.
I think maybe we should think about going ahead with getting that one tested.
Is there
That's fine.
we can do that. Would it be more cost? I guess that's the next thing.
It's
because
more
you-
cost effective. We can do all 3 together, but it never works when everyone's home together. So,
Okay.
whatever. If you want, we'll do that. We can get that one tested. It's not a big deal.
Good.
Well,
Okay.
my ration is, if we test and it comes up hot, because that's what we want to know, if
Right.
it's going to come up hot or not.
Yeah.
If it comes up hot, then we know, listen,
We
we
got-
got to do something.
Actually,
Yeah.
if you don't, excuse my interruption, but you're right. If it comes up contaminated, you now are on track for all homes within 500 feet.
Right, so then it's gonna
let's take
automatic.
small steps,
Yeah.
because maybe we should, If it doesn't, we can take the approach of look for the.
Well, that's part of it. If it doesn't come up hot, what we've done as a board in the eyes of public health and safety is we don't think there's a concern out there, but we're just kind of double checking to make sure there's not a concern out there. And I believe this board's done its due diligence to those residents in that area. And if they don't want to, have it tested, that's fine. But I believe if the one that wants to do it, we test it. If it comes back hot, we know that we're onto something. And if it doesn't come back hot, maybe we try again at a later time.
Yeah, I agree. I still think we should go after the other two.
Oh, yes,
at the
but
same
but
time.
let's go ahead and
But that makes sense.
And if I could just add to that, we started this a couple months ago at least. So that way, if this person is available in the next couple weeks, month, whatever, we get them tested, as opposed to sending out letters, waiting a couple weeks, getting no response, send another one. It could be months before we hear back from potential 2 and 3. Yeah, I'm for it. Do we need to vote on that, or can we just go ahead and, we've already authorized it.
Already authorized it, just letting us know and letting Gary know that we need to contact them, if someone's gonna be there
Contact them,
testing.
that they can be the first up.
Give
Just
them a heads
communicate
up.
with me, I'll get that arranged.
Are you okay with that, Kathleen?
Yes, I am, yeah.
Okay, I am too. Good idea, Matt.
We'll forward you the information and the board of who we contacted
Sure.
and that they're gonna be testing, and Gary can let them know when he's gonna be there. But we'll send the information to him.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
Gary, just generally speaking, once the test date has happened, what's the results? Timeframe?
Usually 2 weeks, but I get them quicker. I'll get them usually a week and a half.
Yeah. Not rushing, just curious,
I
I didn't know.
I think just given the holidays, I'm not sure I want to be in someone's house between the holidays. I think what I'll do is, we'll
Wait till after the.
wait till after the first of the year.
Is that
It's
right?
up to you guys.
Sure.
I mean,
No, that sounds good.
I'm around. I don't mind
We're gonna
doing
be
that.
knocking on their door on Christmas.
Just don't bother people, that's all.
Yeah, quite frankly, if you talk to the homeowner to set up an appointment, you get an idea. If it's not a big deal and you can do it, fine. If
Yeah.
it seems like the idea is wait after the whatever.
I don't want to inconvenience them, so
Yeah.
give me the information, I'll communicate with
We'll
them.
get it to you.
Whenever we can get it done, we'll get it done.
Yeah.
So we don't have to wait till the next meeting. If you have another list of, what did you say, 5 houses or so?
Well, I'll look at it and I'll give you,
As
I'll
far-
send an email
Yeah.
with the next bunch, but I tend to agree with Matt that you might want to get this data in
Yeah,
hand
yeah, oh
before
yeah.
you,
Oh,
before you start sending those out.
okay, all right,
This homeowner's been waiting. They responded pretty quick. They're the
Yeah.
only ones too, so.
okay,
Yeah, because you'll have the data within,
true.
Plus, if we wait longer and this homeowner said, hey, I should tested, 5 months ago? And
Yeah.
Yeah, now they've moved.
Yeah.
You go knocking on their door, somebody
Had
answers,
that
says, who the
happen.
heck are you?
I'll do that and I'll get you the list at the same time, but
Okay.
if it were me, I would at least wait for that data to come
Okay,
in before you
sure.
pursue the list.
Okay, sounds good.
Those are the specific things that I had. I'll take any questions that you guys may have.
Open for questions.
I'm fine.
I don't have
Had
anything.
nothing?
No.
Feels like we're missing something. Guess not. That could be it for you.
Might have heard before, Matt.
Yeah.
Do you guys have anything for me?
All right, Gary?
I'm gonna finish my notes and then head out.
Okay.
Yeah.
Have a
great.
nice
Good
holiday,
to see you.
everybody. Thank you
Thank you
all.
for coming in.
Thank you for
Good
being
to see
here
you.
for us.
And we'll see you in,
I'll probably talk to you too.
well,
I'll communicate.
yeah, you'll communicate.
Okay. Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. We have, on new business, the age limit increase for tobacco purchase in Massachusetts. This was,
Okay, pass it down.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
this was
Instead of
just,
hitting someone in the eye.
so this email just came out, what, a week or so ago? No,
It was
2
released on December 4th to the coalition,
Okay.
to Tobacco Control Coalition. When I went to our annual meeting of the FEP steering committee, they talked about this going into effect, and I'm like, what are you talking about? And they said, well, it's going to 21. So what happened was, the person who ran the Tobacco Coalition, which we were part of and originally, resigned. So they handed it to their bosses who didn't have our address in there. She said somehow we were emailed and whatever. Anyway, it's going to 21 anyway. We could vote to go to 18 to 19 to 20-year-old. I went to every single institution that sells tobacco in Charlton, and they all said, no, we're going to 21 on our own. They're either part of a larger, and all their other stores have to, and it's too confusing. And I went to Ted's and spoke to Ted.
I did too.
And Tarek, and he said, Jim, I know with no disrespect to the board, even if they went to the tiered, I don't want that kind of business, and I want to go right to 21 anyway. So our policy at Ted's would be to go to 21. I spoke to the smaller ones. He owns 3 Country Farms. He owns the one on Stafford Street. He said that his other stores and all the other stores around are 21 also. So this would include that going on January 1st, it would be 21 for all tobacco products.
In Charlton.
In Charlton.
January 21st of 19.
Excuse me?
Of 19.
Of January 1st of 2019, it'll be 21. And
Okay.
you don't have a choice. The only choice you would have was to adopt an amendment
Right.
that would go to 18 to 20, but the stores themselves said, like the Mass Pike, they're a part of, they own many, many stores. They're just going to 21. They don't want to sell
Make it
and
too
have
confusing,
have that confusion at the register that, oh, when did you turn 19 and when 21 years old, that's it. So I know that you can join the military at 18. I think it's kind of a, but I think what they tried to do is Commonwealth of Mass was trying to get online with the marijuana that's 21, so tobacco went to 21, because that includes buying all the materials that would be the smoking materials, cigars, the bongs, the pipes, all that other paraphernalia stuff. The vaping materials would now be 21.
Oh, okay, good
Yeah,
to know.
so, I've been talking to people about this too,
Mhm.
and there's an awful lot of vaping that's going on in the middle school. And this is horrible. So to the extent that you have to be older to buy this stuff.
It's a good thing.
Is only to the good. And I wish it had been done a long time ago. So there's no benefit to the citizens of Charlton other than the 18 or 19-year-old to do the tiered system. There's no benefit to our kids. I mean, they would say it differently. But
Unless you're already addicted.
Right.
Call it what it is, addicted to nicotine.
Yeah, and that's the problem, because if you're 18 now, also you turn 19, now it's all of a sudden you're already addicted, now you cannot buy tobacco. Because every single town around us has already gone to,
That
they're
was
going
my
to
next
21.
question.
yeah.
Sturbridge, Oxford, Southbridge, Dudley, all 21 right away. And they got on to something else where in Dudley and Webster, you can't sell any of the grape cigars or any of the cigars and all that either. Period. They've been banned.
So nobody is adopting this grandfather clause. I read that, and they said you had
I'm not
to
sure why they'd even do it.
write something up, and then it had to be approved.
Yeah,
put a
it was-
public notice.
It was very, you didn't have to, because legally, the only thing that requires a public notice and a hearing is a change in Title V. So them saying that you need to post it in the paper and all that was incorrect, and we clarified that at the last meeting. Because we have 74 communities, which is the largest coalition in Massachusetts that are represented. And I don't know of any other community that's going to the 18 to 19 to 21. Their boards, which is under your purview, decided, and that's certainly your decision on how you do this, but the stores have said that they would not, they're going to 21.
What about Connecticut? Do you know the legal age for tobacco sales in Connecticut?
You know what, I don't know.
I'm just curious, because if these, they're adults technically at 18.
Oh, yeah,
19,
I
20.
agree, but it's something that they're
gonna be going
really,
somewhere.
Yeah, but they can sell them to the kids that are younger, that's all.
I think it creates a kind of a black market.
Well, yeah, but that's not our concern.
No,
Our concern
the
is the
concern
health,
is-
and
You're right.
I said, hey, this is good. It's like the tax on cigarettes and
And
tobacco products.
we would, if we did go to the 18 and then the 19, the 20, and the 3-year tiered thing, would be the only community around, so it may draw a lot of people to come here because they're gonna have nowhere else to go.
And we'd be sending the wrong message. We'd be saying, even though it's been proven for decades to be
Right.
an extreme health hazard, well, just override the state law. I was aghast. I read that 3 times. I'm like, how can you do that as a town?
Yeah.
override state law and say, well, we're gonna be different, we're gonna grandfather.
I don't know a community that hasn't adopted that. The ones that I spoke to automatically said that their board said it's 21.
Yeah.
And most of the stores are not owned by a small, they're owned in multiple towns. Like one person who owns 2 stores in town here may own 2 in Southbridge or 3 here,
Mhm.
2 in Oxford, 2 in Dudley. They own a large amount of contingency. And if we switch, then his stores in Charlton would be different than his other stores, and they rotate employees around. It's really, it's something that just on the 4th of December they decided to come out with, and I know it's kind of late for the board, but I think it's going to just
It'll be automatic.
be automatic, because the Commonwealth of Massachusetts is saying if you don't do anything, it's going to just go to 21 anyway.
So all of the retailers that sell tobacco products that are affected by this have been informed.
I went to all of them.
Okay.
I felt it was my due diligence to go around and ask. I had, them in the office, called them and met, and went over and spoke to Ted, who owns the largest store in Charlton, probably sells the most tobacco. But believe it or not, the ones that sell a lot of tobacco is the Mass Pikes. They're really busy.
Mm.
They've got lines. They're going to 21 because they own them, and that's what they're going to adopt 21 anyway. That's what they assumed that we would be doing, so that's what they did.
Who enforces the age? Is it police, board of
No, the
health?
state.
Is it State?
State.
So
it's-
if
the
somebody
cannabis
were to
control.
go and say, hey,
I mean, that-
ABC tobacco stores,
We do
I'm sure
stings.
they're selling to.
We do tobacco stings, and I write 21D tickets. Like Matt would, when he was chair, remember we had 3 in 1 year, and then someone had 2 in 6-month periods. So then they lost their right and got a ticket. It's a 21D ticket. If you get 3 within a 6-month period or 1 year, then you lose your right to sell tobacco for 3 months. But it's enforced as a police officer outside with someone from the collaborative, from the state, with an underage person that they choose, and he goes in to try and buy. And if they're not carded right, then, I mean, it happened to a lot of stores in Charlton. That's how they enforce it. We allow them to do stings.
Right, okay. Yes.
Just a little bit off the subject, so are we not part of this collaborative?
We will be part of the collaborative. The collaborative itself, for some reason, the person running it, we've always been part of the collaborative.
Okay.
They've done tobacco stings in Charlton they mail you the cigarettes and I have to dispose of them after. How we got lost in the shuffle, and I don't know, but I told
We're not
Colleen we
part
need
of
to
it.
correct it.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right,
But
thank
that's something that, they've always done stings in Charlton. That's how we did the enforcement.
you. Thanks. Good.
You have to go.
I have to know.
So, for the record, Matt Gagner has to leave. He's got a prior appointment. He was gracious enough to come in and spend the first 30 minutes here with the board. We will continue on without him, but I think we got the major discussions for some of these agenda items taken care of, so I thank you for coming in and being part of that.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
And then we'll be in contact if there is, one last thing. When did we put down the next meeting?
We haven't put a meeting down yet. That's.
It was a placeholder, though. It wasn't the
Oh, yeah,
January.
we did.
It wasn't January 8th, was it? No, because you're going to be out.
Yeah.
You will
He's
not
going to
be
be out.
Okay,
He's
good.
going to be going.
All, because the all boards meeting, which I will
June?
attend,
No,
that's January 8th.
Yeah.
So it's after that. Okay, that's fine.
And this, if the board chooses to vote on it, that's a letter that I drafted up, so we can put it into a bylaw. Because it's
business
really under
owner.
the purview of the board.
Dear business owner, on December 18th, the Town of Charlton Board of Health voted to enact a regulation entitled Restricting the Sale of Tobacco Products and Nicotine Delivery Products. The amended regulation includes raising the minimum legal sales age to 21. The regulation will go into effect on December 30th, 2018. For a copy of these regulations, please call the Board of Health at 508-248-2210. Please feel free to contact our office with any questions. Sincerely, James Philbrook, Health Director. You good with that?
So I'll make a motion to approve.
Yeah, that's,
Okay.
Jim's letter
I'll second the motion.
dated December 19th.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I'm gonna
We
abstain.
don't need to sign that, you just.
well, you're adopting the section 3, which
Yes.
I will read for the
Thank you.
record.
Yep.
On December 18th, 2018, the Charlton Board of Health voted to enact a regulation entitled Restricting the Sale of Tobacco Products and Nicotine Delivery Products. The amended regulation includes raising the minimum legal sales age to 21. The regulation will go into effect on December 30th, 2018. For a copy of these regulations, please call the Board of Health.
Okay. And this is just, again, for the record, I'm sure Andrea's gonna know this for the minutes, but this follows state law.
Yes, this is
guidelines.
state law. As you know, the Massachusetts passed a law that raises and purchases tobacco to 21. So
Okay.
that's what they did.
Okay.
Let's see, I didn't know if you heard, I abstained from the vote.
Oh, you did?
It was two and one,
Okay.
I
Okay,
abstained.
I'm
Matt
sorry.
abstains
Still
from the vote.
passes, so.
Okay.
Okay. Thanks for clarification.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't hear. I
I know,
apologize.
it's okay. Okay,
Have a good
see you later.
Christmas. and
Yeah, thank you.
We'll see you in January.
Okay.
All right, so Matt is leaving. Kathleen and I are still here with Jim, and we will go ahead to, I'm sorry, are we all done with the tobacco products?
Yes, I'm just going to make sure that Andrea has this, so I signed it and it's there, and we
Okay.
can go on to the.
Okay. So, ongoing business, we already spoke about Flint Road landfill, unless there's anything else you wanted to add other than what
Nope.
Gary Magnuson
Carrie's
spoke
been
about?
doing a good job keeping me informed and keeping the board informed, and he's does
Okay.
very good work.
Yes,
so.
he does. All right, H-Foot Road, Berry Corner Road, and Eleanor Lane. We do have some folks in attendance tonight, and I've seen numerous emails about construction updates and so forth. And Jim, I think you're probably
Yep.
best to speak.
As you
on
know,
this.
at the last meeting, some of the residents had some issues and concerns that of damage to their property, the road conditions, even driving conditions that the Whitings have had, especially Melissa, who was involved in an accident. I brought this up at a meeting with Time Bond at 185 Gulford Road to Time Bond so they could forward it with the owner there from the construction company. And they sent us a list of the updates because Jerry, who's in charge of highways, Jerry Foskett, had closed them down due to the road conditions until they made some repairs. Jerry attended the last meeting, and they sent me a checklist of what they've done. Eleanor Lane, below is a list of maintenance, and I did receive a couple emails back that the residents said, thank you very much. They did put a berm, prevent the water from coming into my driveway. But H-Foot Road, 90 was the contract removed the pavement and wet gravel, installed new gravel, and proof rolled the trench, then installed a 2-inch temporary binder for cross trench. Work completed on 12/10/18, and I did speak to the owner, just emailed me and said thank you. Then on 102 H-Foot Road, the contract removed pavement, then installed 2-inch temporary binder for cross trench. Work completed on 12/10/18 also. And I think I did put copies in there for the board. Berry Corner Road did quite a bit of work on there also. They installed new gutters, inlet drains. They got permission from conservation to direct the water into an area to collect it for now. So they wouldn't. There was an issue with it. It was actually when it was cold and we had rain. It was like a puddle in the middle of the road, which was causing hazardous driving conditions. So they've hopefully, I think, I don't know. Maybe they could update you on. I've been driving those roads. They seem a lot better. There's a lot of patchwork going on, but I don't know if it was slippery this morning.
This morning wasn't bad, but there also wasn't a ton of precipitation. And
Friday
it
is
was a little
supposed to
bit-
rain,
Right.
1 inch of rain
Right,
on
it's
Friday.
more rain than the snow, because the rain collects and
Yep.
it just turns into this big monsoon river that's just.
And I did forward the emergency numbers if they need to contact someone. I think you could, hopefully John forward them. So if you do have an issue, there's 2 numbers you can contact for Ludlow Construction, and they will come out and address this situation right away. So say you get that heavy rain, the road starts to wash out, they're supposed to monitor that, but if you do see anything, don't hesitate to call them. They're keeping equipment on site with things to with the equipment and everything to repair that road.
Are they still doing installs of laterals? Or
No, they're not doing any of that right
Okay,
now.
they're pretty much shut down for the winter.
Shut down.
Okay, but they do have some equipment or can
They
call.
left equipment in case the road conditions start to deteriorate. They're responsible for maintaining that.
Good,
So,
good.
but we did work to make sure that they did correct. Jerry was right on the spot. A meeting was very productive, and Ty and Bond said, "Listen, these things we don't want them corrected." So Jerry went with Heather Blakely, and they went over every single spot in the road to make sure it was corrected. So
And there haven't been any other odor problems?
I was just
Where-
thinking
where
about
was
that. There have been odor
Yes.
issues, and I actually called in, I don't remember the exact date off the top of my head, I have the paperwork at home, but,
Was it?
same thing, I mean, it was horrible, it was absolutely horrible, and she came out and said, oh, it's a tube. And, you know, I mean, one of
It's
our
still a-
customers came up and said,
Yeah,
my
it's-
God, as soon as I turned on to HFA, that's all you could smell.
I could smell it the other day,
Yeah.
and they were fined, as you know, another $106,000 by the DEP again for odor violations. So, you know, this is the thing, is that, you know, this is a 52-acre landfill, and they're not supposed to have off-site odors. If they do, and it's been a long time, we'll be collecting those and keeping them, and people have been complaining. They're finally closed, and now they're getting these fines. And they had open trash pit, they had trash not covered with daily cover. I'm saying, where is the town of Southbridge and their oversight of the landfill monitor to say, hey, you can't leave until this is covered? I don't understand it. So, so I know that Mary Jude Pigsley was very responsive to the complaints and sent out a very stern letter with a heavy fine, so, but there's still odors, so I don't know
Is
what
that-
they're doing there.
Well, that's because they're still grading and moving stuff around.
They're shaping and grading, doing the final, but in the meantime, they did send a response team out there to take a look at it, and they said there were violations.
The
So,
DEP responded. Well,
Yeah.
that was, the result of that was this $100,000-something fine.
yep. So,
Well, I guess
maybe
this
some of that
just
money
don't-
should come to the residents
Yeah,
for their
well, that was
inconvenience.
brought up, yeah. I mean, you're the folks that are suffering the most.
Exactly.
But I would hope that folks are still registering odor complaints.
I think they are.
Good.
They are.
I think they're
Good.
definitely.
I think I received one on Friday from Mr. Mahan.
Okay, yeah.
Yep.
So what happens to that money?
Goes into the Superfund. Cover spills, emergency response. When there's emergency response by DEP, they automatically hire their own people, use that funding, and then they go after the funds later to make sure it's appropriately addressed so it doesn't affect the environment.
Sorry, Kathleen, our department doesn't get any of that,
No,
I
no,
guess.
no.
And I hope it doesn't go for a continuation of monitoring, because who's ever doing the monitoring is, certainly I wouldn't, if I was up there and I was the landfill monitor and they had open trash that's been there forever, I would say, you're not leaving until
this
it's
is
covered.
Right.
That's the job of the landfill monitor.
Right.
So, I don't know what's going on there. I did mention it to Andy Pelletier, the health director in Southbridge, but didn't have much of a response, so.
Well, it's been cold and you can't see at the bottom of the hill when you're sitting in your car.
Would it help
I-
if, through the chair,
Yes.
would it help if we talked to the other Board of Health members in Southbridge?
I think they get the gist of it, and I think I'm very good friends with the Board of Health members, actually the vice chairman and the chairman, I know them both. I think that they
They're
don't want any.
appointed, right?
They're appointed by the town manager,
Not elected, okay,
so they're not elected, no.
right.
But they're very, very concerned also. I think that if you want, that I would extend to one of the board members that our board is concerned that the landfill monitor is allowing open trash over the weekend, and that's why we're receiving odors. What is being done about this to make sure
Yeah, I
that
think that'd be a good idea.
at the end of the Friday, they don't leave for the weekend with open trash?
I'm in agreement with Kathleen and you, it sounds like, can you send just a simple letter? and
Sure,
just say
absolutely.
This was discussed. at
I
tonight's
think
meeting?
it's appropriate in this case.
Mhm.
It's in their town, it's their responsibility to assure that they're following the agreement and no open trash is allowed. Daily cover should be used no matter what. I think
Right.
it's to the point where it does cost to do daily cover, but remember, all that daily cover is stored in Charlton. That was supposed to be all that big pile that collapsed, that's used for cover. It's supposed to be clean soil that they use. So they can't say it's not there, there's a huge mountain of it.
Mm.
So, what the problem is, I don't know, but certainly there are
Well,
still odors.
I think
Doesn't
sending a
have to
letter
put
will at
pressure
least
on them,
let them
yeah.
know that we're aware of it and we'd like to see.
We'll draft up a letter, we'll forward over to the board to take a look at it, make sure you agree with it, and then we'll forward it to the chairman of the Southbridge Board of Health.
Thank you.
And they can even use that to say, look, we're getting all this pressure from Charlton. You know, I mean,
Mhm.
sometimes people need reasons to,
I agree, I think it's time, and I don't think it's too late. I think that, they're the ones that employ the landfill monitor, They're the ones that she's supposed to be there to assure that they're following the contract and the 58 conditions that are set forth and approved by the DEP, that no open trash is left ever.
Can you copy it to the town manager?
Sure.
Our town manager?
No, their town manager.
Okay, well, ours would be
Southbridge.
the town administrator, but.
Yep.
Southbridge.
I'll forward it to
Town
him.
manager,
Yep.
yeah.
All right,
I'll
thank
get
you,
that.
Judy.
Thank you very much. Something.
Anything else on your end from your,
And we'll CC the residents also on the letter, if that's okay with the board.
Yeah.
yes,
it's good.
sure,
Thank you.
I don't see why not. So we'll move on then. Our next item for ongoing business is marijuana discussion. We do have somebody else in the audience. Mr. Russell, are you here for that?
I was here for that, just to hear what you had planned to talk about.
Well, this is, Mr. Russell called me
Have a seat.
a few nights ago. Yeah, please, come on up and have a seat. Gerard Russell. Am I saying that right?
You are?
You don't go by Jerry?
Jerry
Sometimes.
Gerard, I'm
Okay.
easy to please.
All right, just for the record, so Andrea knows. Mr. Russell called me a couple of nights ago at home, and he had concerns that the VG, in this case VGG, because you are a potential abutter to the project, well, you are an abutter to the project, to the potential Valley Green Grow mega facility. But your concern was that you thought that this should, the site plan, there should be some sort of a site plan and review through this Board of Health, correct? And I did a little bit of research on that, and I could not come up with it. But you mentioned, I probably had it wrong, so before I misstate anything, you had specifically said something in the town, was it the town bylaws?
The site plan review process.
Site plan review process. and
I can
thought-
forward it.
Okay.
Sure. Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
I have been participating in the meetings for the planning
Yes.
board and given my input. I even did an on-site visit with the chairman of the planning board and Todd Gerard and a few of the Charlton residents. Wharton Station Road, one of the residents. We went to North Brookfield to visit their facility. So we took a ride there. I have participated in the, we had a conference call with the Hope Group, and I gave my input on what the board would expect. It would be zero odor emissions, not best practices.
Right.
If you can have a 52-acre landfill that's outside and expect no off-site odors, which we talked about, then why couldn't you have a building that I've been to in North Brookfield with zero odors outside? That's
Right.
only 158,000 square feet. It can be done. It's been engineered to happen, because I can honestly tell you the day was freezing cold, and that's when, I'm sure the Whitings will tell you, the colder it gets, the more the odor is. It's not when it's warm. And there was zero odors outside that building. Zero. I mean, I stood outside a door with thousands of plants and I didn't smell anything. In the area where they were doing some of the work of compression and getting the CBD oils, I did smell. It was a very strong odor in that first room we went into. Other than that, it was outside, there was zero odor, as a matter of fact. So I've been giving my input to Patsy and to the planning board and to Bill Scanlon that, I did even go downstairs to one of the meetings to state that, it can be done, but I think that their odor plan that they submitted was not very good.
Correct. Yeah, I read that as well.
And I think you were at the meeting too, that I was there.
I was.
It just, and I was sitting with Kathleen, it was, looked like it was cut and paste type of job, and I know their odor consultant didn't show up for the meeting, but I think if they're gonna just say at the end, best practices, anyone could do that. I mean, I don't wanna be responding on my weekends for complaints, and I don't think, the residents, look at the residents behind you, they've been complaining about odors for what, three
Right.
years?
Well, that's why I said at the meeting downstairs in the senior center,
Yeah.
that I said it needs to go in as part of the order conditions.
Right.
You need to state that right up front so that there's no leeway, there's no.
And I think there's been some back and forth of what the planning board needs to stay within their realm by the attorney and stuff, but I think as the Board of Health speaking, my job as through the board is to make sure that nuisances are responded to. So if poor Mr. Russell has a terrible odor at his house, there's no third party that's been hired by the DEP to go and do a sniff test, and then we just document it and it moves on. I would be the one responding. Michelle Delmar from the DEP, I could also ask for her assistance. But there's, people think you're gonna go out with some specialized equipment. This is the only thing you go out with. You sniff with your nose. It's not an exact science. But certainly, I think that if we can set the table high, that we don't want any odor emissions. We don't
Right.
want any noise emissions. And if they can, but they don't seem to be willing to step up for that. So I've been saying that I would believe that our board would want 0 emissions of odor.
Well,
I don't
hopefully-
want to be responding out there all the time, and then I feel helpless, because what am I supposed to do? Yeah, I'm gonna write them up that there's an odor complaint and log it, and then that we don't have any kind of regulations that the board would say that if we're gonna give them a $25 fine, it's kind of a joke.
Yeah.
So that's what I've been pushing, that, I've been part of the site plan, but the planning board has not given any approval, but I said we would like to see 0 emissions, and they agree upon that, but they have not.
So building on that then, from your perspective, you don't see any site plan getting forward to this board for us to review,
Well-
have a public hearing, and then approve or modify or put special conditions on?
I think that the problem is not before the board yet. They'll ask for input because the planning board's trying to make a decision whether they can comply with the planning board's, what the planning board has before them, and I think the planning board has given them ample time to come forward. I mean, when your odor consultant doesn't show up, but I think they're getting, their scientists who I did have a conference call with, who spoke the other night up downstairs, maybe 3-4 weeks ago.
Yeah.
He was on the conference call also. And he said it's not possible for 0 odor emissions on the site. And I said, yes, there is. And he said, no, it's not possible.
You mean outside of the buildings?
Outside of the buildings, he thinks that,
There's
for
gotta be
me
some.
asking as the Board of Health agent or director, that I would expect there to be 0 outside emissions, he said that's not possible.
Well,
Could I just ask something?
yes.
About the site plan approval. According to the list that I'm looking at, we have to sign off on an occupancy permit?
See, that's what I asked Cheryl Sbarge, the senior staff attorney, was going to be here to give us our legal,
Well, I mean, it says here, and this is the.
That's just for a
town-
building. It wouldn't, there would be
Well,
no
there
reason
will
not
be
to
a
sign
building.
off on it. We wouldn't have any legal recourse to say, because there is no violation yet.
Right, but we do have the opportunity to sign an occupancy permit.
But it would not allow the board not to sign it, because you'd have to have a reason not to sign it. And we don't have a regulation that says, we follow the state's regulation, and there's nowhere in the state's regulation for odor that it says that
Right.
0 odors. So, and what authority
I'm
does
just
the Board of
saying-
Health have over a greenhouse? We have more authority over a retail sales that is coming down the street, which is not gonna happen at the
Right.
end of the month. But for a warehouse that's growing, it's before the planning board. I don't see, and that's what I asked the legal, is what legal authority does a Board of Health have over a growing facility? And I couldn't get an answer from the attorney.
Right, but I guess I was on the Burlington Board of Health
Mhm.
for 9 years, and every single building in Burlington was booming at that time, and this is in the, probably the 80s. And every single building that was built in town, every new construction had to come to us.
Yeah, but
Along with all the other boards for sign-offs. And
I do that
what-
now.
What we did when that happened, if we were concerned with anything, we pulled the whole group in to answer all of our questions. So we wouldn't sign off it if we didn't feel like it. If anybody had any reasons, they.
Yeah, but that's a
owners
building
always
with, that's a
comply.
building that you're talking about occupancy for. This is a construction site that is,
Right.
if it gets approved through planning and the board said, well, we think this should be odor, 0 odor emissions, so we're not signing, I don't know if we legally can do that.
Well, you can legally call them in. I don't know what good.
You
it
could
would
call
do.
them in, but I think that, and this is what I've been looking into. We certainly have authority over the one down the street. We set regulations that we've adopted that, because it's retail sales basically of food, which is very limited because they're DPH and the Cannabis Control Commission authorized. Now, if you're talking about VGG and say that planning board does approve, which they haven't approved yet,
Right.
and they came before and they had a building permit to sign, and now it comes before the Board of Health to sign, I do the signing, and what reason would I have not to sign it? They haven't even grown anything, there are no odors and there's no noise. Under what legal part of Chapter 111 could I say, no, I cannot sign or have the board? I mean, the board can express their concerns, but I think that you're saying there is going to be odors and there is going to be noise, so we won't sign. I don't know if you can do that.
I understand. I just think it's still an opportunity to have some input into it, maybe at the end.
The board can choose to speak to them at any, I'm the chairman of the the marijuana advisory committee. We've brought someone on from planning board. We have another citizen because they changed it. So we have to have another citizen on the board, and we have to have someone from planning. And we're gonna have participation from the police.
Who changed it?
The agreement changed with Green Gold Growers. The selectmen changed it.
I mean, the selectmen changed the
The
makeup
agreement.
of the
The makeup
cannabis.
of the Cannabis Control Board, yes.
Okay.
Which is the Marijuana Advisory Committee, which they wanted more participation from a citizen, which is 2 citizens, and someone from the planning board,
Okay.
who is Gene Vincent. But my whole,
So how many of you are there now?
5.
5?
well, there's myself, Deb Noble, Jamie Leahy, Deputy Chief Cantara. Now I'm forgetting some. It would be Gene Vincent and another person, so there'd be 6.
6.
And we have the Lieutenant Dowd, so there would be 7.
Did they appoint the extra citizen yet?
No, we have to vote on it. Our next meeting will be on January 6th, I believe.
So the selectmen aren't voting on it?
No, I, as the chair, will bring it before the board and we'll vote on it.
Kathleen sounds like she wants to volunteer.
We
No,
have
no.
6, we have 6.
I don't think
More
she
than,
could, could
we
she?
have, I don't know if you could. There's 6 residents that have stepped up to volunteer.
So the resident that's chosen will be chosen by the existing.
I can make a recommendation, the board can say, but I decided to let the board look at and make a decision. I don't want that upon myself. Let the group as a whole say yes. I don't know if they want to interview, it's up to the board whether they want to talk to someone, but.
So the selectmen decided that there should be another citizen on this
Yes.
board. And then they turned it over to the board to find that other citizen.
Yeah, and they asked, and during the meeting, people volunteered and went and they filled out paperwork
Right.
at the selectmen's request and then left it in with Mary.
I would think this would be very difficult because there's 2 distinct sides in this whole issue.
Yeah, and I don't
So
want,
whoever you choose.
Could be pro or against.
And then
Is
you
that
could
what you're
be
getting at?
stacking the board, yeah.
Yeah.
well,
For or
I
against.
that's why I said that I shouldn't be my decision.
Right.
I didn't ask anyone whether they're pro or for. I don't form a personal opinion on whether I'm pro or for. I think I have to stay within my realm of, I follow the regulations that are set
That's
forth.
good, and that's good, and maybe, yeah.
And I think that's what I'd be looking for.
Yeah.
I'm not looking for someone to be coming and waving flags or against, for or against. I need someone who's probably, that's more open to hear the,
But I suspect that the 6 people that have applied are also all either for or against.
well, see, the advisory board is not that, a board that would really be, we're more as where you're at, what are you doing, and
Well, I know
where's it
some of the
going?
people on the board, and I know they definitely get one side or
You'd probably know the people more than I would. I don't know. Someone has come into the office and asked, and I said, that's gonna be before the board. I don't think it should be my decision.
Right.
And I think as a board, they should see who wants to be on and talk to them. I think in anywhere, when you get multiple people that want to be on a board, just to choose one out of a hat is not probably appropriate.
Right.
But you're right. I'd like to have someone who's more wants to know the facts, hear based on, not on a personal opinion, but based on that they want to know what's going
There's
on.
probably about,
'Cause
you
we
know,
don't
maybe
vote.
4 or 5 people in the whole town that don't have a very strong opinion.
Yes, and I
Yeah,
try to
it's,
stay
yeah.
away from opinions. I think
I
that.
mean, you don't live in the town, so that's
Right,
good.
and I don't have a vested interest either
Right.
way. I just look at it as I don't want anything in this town that's going to, I already receive calls on Saturdays and Sundays and Friday nights and stuff. Do I want to be my whole weekend consumed? Because once someone calls me, I have a duty to respond.
Right.
As I told them with Five Way International with noise, that if someone would call me, I would have a responsibility That's my job,
Respond, yeah.
is to respond and see if there is a justified complaint, and that's what I'd have to do. I don't want to be spending my whole weekend running out for complaints, and I don't think it's fair to the residents. So that's why I think is what you're trying to get at, is that if we can get them to say there's 0 orders, but we haven't got there. They have not agreed to say that there'd be 0 orders. They said best practices.
I know.
But when their own consultant from the planning board saying that it can't be done, and I'm arguing with them, I'm not a scientist, I'm just the health agent. I said, well then why would a 52-acre landfill that's outside not be allowed to have off-site odors? And you have a building that is confined, and you can say you can't make it so that there's no off-site odors. I just think that it's disingenuous.
Yeah, I agree. There's, and that, now that you mention it, we did bring this up before. One of the orders of conditions from the SRDP was that they would not have detectable odors at
Right.
nearby residences. And it was agreed, adopted, and
Yep.
look what happened.
So how can an enclosed building with triple filtration not agree to have 0 odors? If they're not committed to it. So that's what I've been pressing to say, hey, on behalf of the residents, and as the health director is appointed by the board, and a representative and a voice of the board, that you need to agree that you have no odors.
Right.
Otherwise, I don't think this board's going to be very happy.
Pardon me for interrupting, but have you been before the planning board since your trip to North Brookfield for that facility, which is roughly 2.5 acres?
No, but I was on the conference call with the attorney, representative, their analyst, the scientist that talked about odors,
Mhm.
Patsy, I believe there was another member of the planning board, and myself, and Bill Scanlon.
So it can be done, at least at that facility, using their technology based on your site visit.
And
0 detectable odor outside, and you're talking close proximity to the building.
Right.
You're not talking,
No,
hundreds of
he was
yards
saying it
away.
can't be done. And this is their scientist, he's a lot smarter than I am, but I said, I think you're wrong.
Yeah.
I visited a place that there were no odors, and there were thousands of plants in there. And they were doing CBD oils, they were doing compression, they were doing fusion. I said, so for you to say no, and you supposedly represent the planning board to make a decision, I said you should be applauding that. You should say, no, you need to come up with 0 odors and work on it from there. But he said, no, you can't do it. So I said, I have to go, and I hung up.
Mr. Russell, yes.
Good to hear what you're saying.
Mhm.
I'm wondering if it's possible to ask the board to compose a letter to the planning board that if they do consider, or when they consider approving the site plan and the subdivision plan, site plan especially, that if they do approve it, that they do it with conditions and that there be a commitment for no detectable odors outside the facility.
That's what I've recommended to Bill
At the
Scanlon.
property line.
And I've typed that into him and said I would expect that they would have 0 odors, not best practices. Best practices means absolutely nothing to me.
Right, to me either.
Yeah.
I think where Mr. Russell's going, I think he wants this on the record.
Sure.
He wants this as a document that is on the letterhead, dated, spelled out, and probably voted on and sent off to the planning board as order of conditions, which is what I spoke to them about in the senior center.
Their attorney said they can't set that order condition.
They can't.
Nope.
Whose attorney said that, the planning board?
Planning board's attorney.
Said they can't set that condition?
They can't.
Well,
It could
that's
be.
what- it doesn't
Their
hurt to send
attorney
a
who
letter
works for them
anyway.
said that.
I agree.
Yeah.
Whether, maybe they can't, but it doesn't hurt to send a letter.
It's our feeling.
I'm on the
that-
record and videotaped. I'm on a conference call, and I've also typed into Bill Scanlon my opinion that they should be trying to achieve 0 orders for approval of the site plan.
I
I
think
know,
it should
but
be.
a letter coming from this board saying that we request that they make
And
that a part
and
of the
from the
order of
board as a
conditions.
whole, and if need be,
From the board,
we can
yeah.
get Matt's approval at a later date,
Well,
or we can
we
vote
have
on
a
it now.
quorum right here.
Right, yeah.
So I'll make that motion. What about noise? Can we add that?
Well, yes, and I think they're.
I think it'll be. I've dealt with these before. I dealt with the library. I dealt with the landfill. Where they had 2 generators
I
running
remember the
constantly.
library, yeah.
And the library was an issue of vibrating the poor guy's house. I mean, if you sat there, this would be doing this. So I don't know if they're going to be that close to what the situation, but I think being proactive rather than reactive is the way to go. So
Right.
Yeah.
I can include that in the letter also from the board.
Well,
And I think the chairman in this case should sign
Yeah,
Yeah.
the letter.
you
Yes.
should sign it.
I will sign it.
Yeah.
I will sign.
So I'll get a letter drafted up that,
Letter drafted up, send it off to me,
Yep.
I will send it.
So I'll
I
make
mean,
that
I will-
motion
I will-
to send that letter, and as we've discussed.
sure. I know exactly what the gist of it
Okay.
is. They would like to achieve not best practice, but zero odor
detectable
emission.
odor at
And,
the property line.
and acceptable levels of, because the noise is a different thing. I have a machine. It's a
Right.
a machine really measures the decibel odors. That can't be a 10 above, and we've been through this many
Right.
times.
And they were striving for 5. I think they said 5
5.
decibels, which would be good in my book.
Right.
If they hold it at 5, and that's
That's really
part of the
good.
order conditions, that's very good, I think.
Yeah.
So can we vote on that then?
Yeah, you brought it up. The
I
wording
made
I'm
the
not read.
motion.
Yes.
You can
I-
second it.
I second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
We'll get a letter
Passes.
drafted up. Got a bunch of other stuff. I gotta get this other stuff out, but we'll get a letter
Yeah.
drafted up and then have the chairman sign it. We'll get it out to the planning.
Wait, can I just ask one more question
Sure.
about this?
Don't worry, Mr. Russell, we'll get back to you momentarily.
The odor inside the facility is, there is odor inside the facility, is that right?
There was order, yeah.
And so what about, since all odors are particulate, what about the health of the workers?
They all had respirators on, and the areas that were in, they were all gowned up and they had level B suits on. I went home after, standing in that room for probably a half hour. I said to my wife, and going through the facility was huge.
Right.
This is 158,000 square feet, and I think this facility is going to be, what, 8 times bigger?
Yeah.
Or 7
Yeah.
times bigger? And I said, do you smell anything on me?
Mhm.
Because my wife has a very good nose. And she said, no, I do not. Because I was going to dry clean my coat and jacket. I didn't
No.
think about it, but I wore my Columbia brand new jacket. I was saying, that was probably pretty stupid because now I'm going to smell like this. And my wife said she didn't smell anything. And this was inside, but outside, I walked around that building. I didn't smell anything. So them saying they can't achieve it, but how can someone in North Brookfield achieve it?
How long has that building been there?
A couple years at least, 3 years, 2-3 years.
Because there was talk before about them, some buildings, they don't change the filters enough and then it,
They have a strict and stringent policy of procedures and follow through. Their maintenance crew
I
was.
guess it was the Worcester facility.
There was a problem in Fitchburg until they put the scrubbers in, and then the Fitchburg building inspector called me and said, there are no odors, absolutely 0 odors. So I think we discussed this
What
at a
about
meeting
Worcester?
before. I didn't get in contact with Worcester. They don't return calls when you ask them about these things. They just don't.
Ed Kochman had mentioned that Worcester, the smell was pretty bad.
I'll ask Michelle Delmar. She's the one for the DEP response to nuisance odors, smell, noise. That's her responsibility. She's the one that told me about Fitchburg. He refuted her, saying that he was upset that she said there were odors. He said there's none. Why would she lie to me? She works for the DEP. She's their environmental scientist. I take her word to be true. But then he said there's 0 now because they put in scrubbers. Well, if they can have 0 in Franklin, 0 in North Brookfield, why aren't they shooting for 0 at VGG, and why are they resistant to that? And why are the people working for the planning board not shooting for that also?
So
Well, they should.
we'll give the planning board a little image.
Well, like I told them, I said, look, if you approve this without putting that order of conditions on, I said, it's not gonna be you, it's gonna be the other side of town hall, that board, the Board of Health is gonna be getting all the complaints.
We will. And like I said, I don't feel like responding, and I feel bad for the citizens, even the Whinings. They've been dealing with this for 3 years, and what could, it would be in Charlton would have a little more authority, yet the only one that could take the license away once it's granted is the Attorney General, not the local Board of Health. They took that authority away. Cannabis Control Commission, the only one that can do that is the Attorney General.
That could change too.
Yeah,
So that's what I'm getting, and this is
Yeah.
directly from Michelle Delmar.
thank you. Mr. Russell?
Well, I appreciate the motion and the vote on a letter to the planning board. And as far as the Worcester facility, that's on Route 20,
And Southwest Cutoff?
right, southwest cutoff is Route 20.
Oh, it is, okay.
Yeah.
Near the intersection of Route 122.
Okay.
So maybe near Kamasi Building Materials.
Oh, I know what that is.
Yeah, and a definite odor outside of that building. So that's there. One other thing that I would hope that the board might take a look at is the issue of the composting operation at VGG. We're talking about a vast facility. 1+ million square feet and maybe 800,000 of grow space. And once those plants are done producing what they need to produce, then the plant stocks will be composted. And that process, the composting process at farms in the state, and the state DEP and the agriculture department, they encourage composting, but one of the problems with composting is they have to bring in other material to compost the product with. And that whole process can have problems, especially as Mr. Kochling told you about with mold. Wondering about how that's going to be managed at VGG. They say it's going to be inside. We haven't heard much more about that.
Right.
And whether or not outside materials are going to be brought in, what are their mold management issues or practices. This hasn't been spelled out in the site plan process. I think it really would fall within the purview of the Board of Health. The other issue that we're concerned about is the cooling towers for the 18.5 megawatt power plant that they want to put on the top of the hill. And there are some inherent issues with regard to cooling towers, especially in neighborhoods with Legionnaire's disease. So these are issues that really we haven't gotten answers to in the site plan process before the planning board. The experts are there, or the experts aren't there from VGG, and answers are few and far between.
And
You're talking chillers for the cooling?
The cooling tower.
Yeah, the chillers, okay.
yeah, so we've got the cooling towers. I thought on the composting, they mentioned something about anaerobic closed containers, and I was trying to read this, and I'm not big on composting. Kathleen probably knows 100 times more than I do about composting, and certainly you do.
There's supposedly no composting outside, and the CBD oils are supposed to be, I think the president just voted and released that they are now legal to use them everywhere, so they're gonna be
They're
able to.
legal, did you say?
They're legal.
Legal, yeah, yeah.
I mean, I went to Holyoke Mall and it was a CBD,
Yeah, I buy it for my dog.
yeah, and that's what it's for pets.
Well, it helps with his arthritis.
Yeah, so, and I think that's what they were doing, that's what that machine was for when they compressed the oils and stuff, but supposedly, and like I said, it's been before a planning board, I don't get all this information. They send it to planning board, and then they ask for my opinion, they send me a small plan. I haven't received all those.
You know, and what I've seen and what I've heard is minimal, I guess, would be a proper categorization for the specifics. You would think that this far
Right,
along.
you're gonna have to bring
they
in
would-
wood chips or some kind of other thing to compost to break that
Other
down.
organic material.
Where they're bringing in, that, I think the plant would create the heat, but then you need to bring in 3 other different types of materials to help the breakdown to make it compost.
So it's a process that really hasn't been spelled out before the planning board, and I just thought it might make sense for the Board of Health to ask some detailed questions about the process.
Plus, remember, composting is a fire-related issue also. It creates heat. If you're in a confined space building, I've responded to compost pile on fire many
Spontaneous
times.
combustion.
Spontaneous combustion, and it actually is like charcoal. And believe me, if it's inside a building that's non-sprinklered, because the sprinkler doesn't apply here, there's an issue with composting, and whether it's turned over, and I don't know, you can run machines inside. How are you going to turn the large amounts of this over? So I think that's also some of the questions that the deputy chief has brought up.
So along these lines, I know they've had some delays with some of the plans, a lot of the details not forthcoming from their experts and whoever at BGG to the planning board. Is there a timeline for when they
January
start-
2nd.
January 2.
And they haven't asked for an extension. So I'll have to work kind of fast to get a letter, but the planning board could say no at this point based on the information received.
Based on the information. It just seems to me like from everything that I've heard from being down there, and like you say, I know their odor consultant was supposedly
MIA?
well,
Storm?
it was due to a
Snowstorm?
snowstorm in Chicago or something, whatever. Okay, but this whole thing about composting, chilling towers, I was down at the senior center and somebody who, again, was pretty knowledgeable said, you know, what size motors are you gonna use for this, that, and the ventilation? And well, we're still looking at that. And he said, and he just laughed. He said, you gotta be kidding me. You want approval on this and you haven't even spec'd in the equipment yet.
Right.
And it's just, I probably
I-
shouldn't say it,
I-
but it's ludicrous.
I really think that if they're gonna have all that up there, it would be quite loud.
Well, there's ways to mitigate that, we know, but
Sure,
at the
but-
same time,
Give us the info.
yeah, right. So where this gentleman was going was, you can look at this motor and you can say, oh, it produces, 82 decibels.
Right.
Okay, so 82 decibels times whatever it is to the nearest residence, you're gonna need X amount of shielding and whatever around this. So, very good questions were asked at the meeting, and I certainly didn't hear a lot of good information that made me feel comfortable. And there's just so much that was lacking. I would hope that they would ask for an extension at the very least. as
According
opposed
to the chairman, Patsy, which I spoke to, and they have not asked for an extension at this point. I was with Bill Scanlon today, he didn't say that they've asked for an extension beyond.
VGG has not asked for an extension.
VGG, yes.
It's a hard deadline, January 2.
Yep.
Because there's a land court case which VGG brought against the town of Charlton. There's a hearing January 4 in land court in Boston, so the hard deadline is January 2 for the land court.
So they would have to have all this information, you would think. I mean, I would hope that the planning board would not just say, well, they'll get these specs to us, and I'm sure they'll figure out this and do this and that and the other, and then stamp it with approved.
I don't believe
on a
that.
facility this large that has this many potential negative
I think-
issues.
I think they're a pretty good board. I think they're trying to do the right thing. And from speaking to a couple of them on there, they're waiting for information. The ball is in their court. They're asking for this, and it's up to them to present it so they can make an informed decision. If they don't have all the information, they'd be crazy to make a decision of yea or nay.
Correct.
They'd have to say no because based on insufficient data.
So the data, Mr. Russell, the data, I did go on the website today for the planning board, and I saw a little bit during the lunch hour, but I'm sure I'm missing stuff. Is it your understanding that as VGG comes across more technical data, more specifications, more whatever, would this be given to the planning board and then made available to the public?
What has been going on is the board, rather VGG will, or their engineers, provide information to the planning board, Mr. Scanlon, and then that's eventually posted online.
Eventually. But I mean, January 2nd is just a couple of weeks from now.
Yeah, but I don't think the planning board has all what they've been asking for. From what I don't believe that they have everything. But like I said, it's before them to make a decision. I've been asked to sit on conference calls. I've been very exactly what I said to the board. I told them the same thing. They didn't specifically agree with me. I said, you're not going to be the one responding on a Saturday night when it's freezing cold and someone's out there trying to live a right for peaceful existence at their own home, and then I have to go there, and I feel horrible that I really don't have a lot of authority at that point. Just, a $25 ticket or in a complaint and a slap on the wrist, and you log it in the computer is not helping anybody.
No. That's why we need upfront order conditions, part of what is part of the official approval plan.
So how, Mr. Chairman, so how do we get the information about the composting?
I can ask for it from, if I may, Mr.
Yes,
Chairman. I
please.
can ask Mr. Scanlon if he has that information. Is it available? And I'll get it and forward it to the board.
Thank you.
Okay.
Mr. Russell, does he have your email address?
I think I do.
I think you do.
I can give you my card if you want to
Okay,
email me.
why don't we do that? I'll email it to you.
And then I'll get it.
That way we can kind of, if you come across something that is new that you don't think has been made public that we should be aware of, by all means, send it to Jim. Jim can forward it off to us. Unfortunately, I don't think this board will be meeting between now and January 2nd date. Is that?
I
is this
can't
a-
foresee,
Can't imagine we would.
No.
I don't think would have, I don't foresee them at this point, based on what I know, that they have sufficient data to say move forward, or they have not asked for an extension. Like I said, it's a hard date. January 2nd is what they're looking at, so I don't know. They've hired an order consultant, they've hired an attorney to assist them. They've asked me to give my opinion on behalf of, us. Myself would have to respond to the nuisance, and I've told them straight out, it should be 0. Their own consultant said, you can't do it. So I said, well, I've said my piece, and I have things to do, so I hung up. I wasn't going to just sit there for another 45 minutes to say I said what I had to say, and he said it can't happen. So I said, well, yes, it can.
Mr. Chairman, Mrs. Walker, Mr. Philbrook, thank you so much for your
Thank
time.
Mr. Russell, thanks again for coming in.
Have a Merry
And as
Christmas.
always, contact the board or contact me if you have any other questions, concerns. We're always happy to have you.
Thanks so much.
Have a good night.
He's gonna head out also, so have a nice holiday. Thank you
Have a nice
very
holiday.
much.
Thank you, Whitings.
Thank you.
I'm glad things are getting a little better, at least on the road itself, so you don't have to.
Still loaders though.
Still
Yeah,
loaders,
it's
yeah.
to the-
Still has to be addressed, but
Did I
yes.
send this?
No, those are for you.
Oh,
Every
okay.
step forward is a step forward.
That's right.
Thank you. See you next year. Have a good Christmas.
You too, thank you.
My granddaughter's soccer game. She
Let's
made
see.
varsity and we were so happy, but of course, she doesn't get to play.
What? Basketball?
Yeah, in high school.
With
This guy-
Shepherd Hill?
Yeah, he only plays like 5 or 6 games. And he leaves everybody else on the bench for the whole game, everything. It sickens me.
If we're done with marijuana discussion, are we done with marijuana discussion?
Yeah, I thought, I'm sorry, it was,
No, that's fine.
yeah,
I
we're done.
I think I've said, and I understand what the board is looking for, and I'll make sure I get that.
Thank you, Jim. I appreciate that. That will give us a little bit more a comfort zone, I think, with just stating categorically, here's what the opinion of the board is, and to safeguard residents. in the area.
Exactly. I mean,
So-
it's gonna fall before the board, and we're gonna go out there with very little authority to do anything. So if we, now, that's why I said 0, and they're saying, no, we can't do it, I'm
Well,
like,
it can be done.
it can be
obviously.
done.
It can be done. It may be
If not-
greater cost. Maybe when you go from a 3-acre facility to a 50-acre, whatever. I don't care.
it can be done, I've
Not-
seen it,
not-
so.
you
But
know,
for
here's
their
what my
order.
mother would say. My mother would say, "Who was there first?" I mean, it's the same thing as like, you know, you run
You're right.
outside and one of you picks up the basketball and starts shooting baskets. The other one tries to grab it. You go, "Who was there first?" I look at this the same way.
Yeah.
You've got residents that were out that have been living there in some cases for decades.
Mhm.
They moved in. They knew there was an apple orchard there, and for 2 or 3 weeks, generally on weekends during the fall, they would have more traffic and people walking and, you know, and coming to pick apples and so forth. And I'm sure there was some trucks here and there. But now, this is a total change of use with a power plant and everything else that we've talked about. And if I was Mr. Russell, I would be very concerned.
Yeah.
I totally understand where he's coming from. His right for a peaceful existence is being jeopardized, and I think that it's not over the top to ask for 0 if they want something, but they won't come. And when their consultant says it can't be done, maybe need a new consultant.
Yeah. I've got to run off too, so,
Okay.
on the basketball game.
Jim, department head reports? Anything?
Basically, I gave you some. No, I just gave you some quick information
That's a
on.
fascinating report on the seniors.
Yes, and I felt that was
Yeah.
adequate. Robin gave it to me, and I think that's something I also keep track of for the board.
Yeah.
Cancer, illnesses, and stuff that
Oh, that's
we
this.
don't
Okay.
normally
Yeah,
talk
it's-
about at
but
I
it's-
saw
boards.
Tufts and I thought,
Yeah.
why is he giving me something on health?
No,
Yeah,
but-
it's, that's
Remember, that it is under
fascinating.
the purview, because I get into Maven, we have patients that belong to the board that have infectious diseases that we monitor, we have a public health nurse. So that's part of the Board of Health that we really don't talk about a lot at meetings, that's being done in this office and outside this office, but we're there to make sure that all aspects of public health, safety, and environment.
Is this on the website?
No.
Can we post it? Would it be? would it be?
Robin just brought that into me,
Oh,
the
okay.
town administrator today. She
It's
received
just
it.
good
But
information.
there's
It's-
some very, it summarizes up here how,
It does.
where we're in.
If
you'd like,
I
where
can
we're
post it on the
better than the
website.
state
Well, if-
average
if-
and
I'll
worse
leave
than
it.
the state average, but the ones where we're worse than the state average, maybe we could look into and try to find more programs to address, like cholesterol, for instance. It's one of
Exactly.
the ones that we're
So-
worse in obesity too, that's another one that we're worse than the state average. So those kinds of things, you know, we can use to encourage the town to build more walking trails or something, you know.
We do, and that's stuff we work on in other aspects of it. Also, the drop-off
But
station we
this
had.
is just seniors.
Yeah, this is just senior. We had a problem because they used to be able to bring one bulky item to Southbridge. You can no longer do that.
You can't?
No, you have to pay for it. There's a letter gone out to John Costello by Robin to ask him what's the situation with that, and they have no ability to accept yard waste. So there is no acceptance of yard waste from Charlton residents. They did not set up for that. So a letter went out from Robin to John Costello based on the agreement to say, where are we at with that? And can we make any corrections to these? But as of now, you're gonna have to pay for your bulky item, which they were accepting for free.
Yeah.
I don't know how or why. It really wasn't probably supposed to be that way. And the yard waste, there's nothing in Oxford
The
set
other
up.
thing is that to get your material into the container, you have to throw it up and over.
Yeah.
In Southbridge, they had a walkway up, so you could just walk up and drop
Yeah,
it
I-
in. And this is very hard for some people, especially
Sure,
seniors, they
sure.
can't throw the thing.
And I do have a phone number, and I'm gonna address my concerns to that phone number. Of just what you spoke about, and see if I
Yeah.
can get some answers.
Yeah.
But Robin is assisting, going right to the top and asking the owner of Casella to say, hey, this is your facility, these are the issues, what's gonna happen?
Right, yeah, good.
And I'll get back to the board.
And the other thing I just want to mention, we just had a recycling committee meeting, and the recycling committee is a committee of this board.
Yes, it is.
And they've gotten input that we're not a green community, and we're trying to say that we are a green community because of the drop-off and
Mhm.
the opportunity that all the citizens have to drop off. They don't have to have a hauler, they can just go there and drop off their trash and recyclables every week if they want.
Exactly. And
Save the
Charlton
money.
is,
And people, of course, that live over near that area or closer to that end of town can take advantage of it easier than they could to go to some.
right, Charlton's a huge community,
Yeah,
so
44
Yeah.
square miles.
Yeah.
yeah.
I think it's the third largest municipality
It's in the top
land-wise.
10.
Yep.
Top 10 for
Yeah.
sure.
So
Phillips
it's big.
is up
But
there.
I'm working on this, and I know that it's important. I just didn't want it to go by the wayside, that
Yeah.
we've been accepting the complaints,
Oh,
logging
great.
them, and
Okay.
we're gonna work on it, so.
Great.
Is that it, Jim?
That's it.
So we should set up in the next meeting too.
We had put something on there as a
Yeah,
placeholder.
I think
wanna
we
say
did
it's-
in January already. I'll ask Andrea, because she has it, and I'll check the minutes, and I'll let the board know.
I want to say it was the week after the 8th, whatever that is, like the.
Right.
Somewhere
Yeah.
around the
I
12th.
think you already had put that
15th.
in there, so it's in the minutes, so.
Yep, and
Okay.
that's, again, it's a placeholder, it's not hard and
And
fast,
then I
but
think
just,
that's something we all agreed to. Matt
Yeah, because Matt's gonna be back
Yeah.
after the first 2
Yeah.
weeks, so I think you're
Yeah.
right. That's
Yeah.
something we talked about, so.
Great.
so that's
All
what
right.
we'll go with for now. I assume we'll have the usual
I'll work
items
on those,
there.
those letters for you to sign, Mr.
Thank
Chairman,
you. Thank
and we'll
you.
get those out, but I've been expressing my opinion, very
Yes.
strong,
Yeah,
and it's not a personal opinion, it's based upon public health, safety, and environment, which I'm an extension of the board. I have the right to say 0 emissions.
correct. And thank you for
And you
upholding
have our
that.
complete support on that.
When
So-
it's done, let me know, Andrea can send it to me, but I will send it, I will come in and sign it.
Sure.
Is
So
this
we've got
board,
it.
You can e-sign too, I think we can send it to you if you have the ability to e-sign.
Okay, I
are
don't know if I do.
you guys open on Monday?
No, and that's another thing thank you for reminding me, we're closed on the 17th and the 24th, 25th, so not next week.
So Thursday, the day after tomorrow?
After this week, we're closed Monday and Tuesday for both weeks.
Well, I'll have to make a point of just coming in. What time do you get in the morning?
Oh, we're open at 7:30.
Okay.
Our hours are at the Board of Health, as I promised, are always open when the town hall is open.
Okay,
Unless
7.
something happens where I have to leave and the
Right.
girls aren't here to do an emergency inspection. I've done a lot of housing inspections lately. I can let you guys know about that later, but I've been doing a lot of housing for violations, always in the winter, always around the holidays, violations of heat, water, stuff like that. So I've been
Yeah.
doing those.
Well, when the letter's ready, I will make a point of getting in here and signing it.
But you're right,
so
we're
we
gonna
can
be
get
at
it
limited
off.
hours, and I may take, Thursday I'm leaving early, my daughter's birthday, so I have to spend it with my daughter. So Andrea's out, but Kim will be in, I'll be here for half the day, but other than that, I'm
It'll
out
probably
here.
be pretty quiet
Okay,
Yeah.
once the sermons are over.
And
Thank you, Kathy.
The girls have
Right,
been doing a
good.
great job, as you can see.
yeah,
Yeah.
This
wonderful job.
office runs like a smooth oiled machine, because these
Yeah,
girls are
really, it's-
on the ball.
And we remember or I remember how it used to be, so I
Yeah.
can really see the great contrast.
All right, we'll call it a meeting then, if that's it.
Yeah.
7:25,
You need a motion to adjourn.
motion to adjourn.
Okay, second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Meeting is over.
Meeting adjourned at 7:24.
7:24.